Hey everyone, good evening, and welcome to the first ever Facebook Live edition of Indie Strong. So you might be asking yourself, what are we going to do? What is she doing? And why is it at 10:30 at night? Well, let me tell you, I have been playing with this notion for a long time. If there's one thing I get, it's a lot of questions on independent publishing and what it means, what it does, how to do it, and whether or not it's for you or not. I also get a lot of questions about my writing process and the inspiration that goes into my writing. And so I thought, you know what, I am just going to go ahead and do a Indie Strong Facebook Live series. That way I can answer your questions. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments and I'll answer them as soon as I can. And I also have a few that came in earlier that I will also answer. So why now? Well, I've had a lot of people ask me to write a book about the process and what I do and how to make it as an independent author. And my answer to that question is always, well, by the time I get a book done, everything will change. And that is just the world that we live in as independent authors right now, is that one marketing technique might work today that didn't work yesterday, and vice versa. Something that worked 12 years ago definitely is not going to work today. In fact, something that worked 7 years ago definitely not going to work today. So I thought by doing Facebook Live and Independent Strong and answering your questions that we could stay up to date a little bit better than if I just wrote a book. So that is why. And why now? Well, I'm 42 today. And I just thought, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? So here I am, and hopefully you guys will find this useful and entertaining. I'm going to try to make it well-rounded, so it fits both my author friends and my reader friends and just my friends, and hopefully you guys fall into at least one of those categories. So here we go. Who am I is probably the first question if you don't already know. My name is Jennifer McMurrian, and I have been an independent author for the past 8 years. I worked at the Bartlesville Public Library when I had my daughter, and it was coming to the point where I either had to write or stay at the library, and then my husband and I would just kind of be meeting each other as I was leaving for work, as he was getting home, vice versa. And so I decided it was time to jump on this writing train. And thankfully, I had some really good mentors, Linda Bollinger, and she really helped me and just kind of guided my path. And so hopefully I can pay this forward. So I was very fortunate that my first book, Quail Crossings, hit #1 on the Amazon bestseller list back in 2013 as an independent book. It's hardly unheard of back then because the algorithms were totally different than what they are now. And so I was able to do some tricks that Linda Bollinger and Darlene Shortridge both taught me in order to get to the top of that list. And so that success has carried over, and it ebbs and flows, as we all know. And so hopefully I'm paying it forward and sharing that insight with you. So I have had success. Quail Crossings is by far my most famous series, and it continues to be so. In fact, today I had a nice little birthday present when I got a 5-star review on BookBub, and the woman said, "I've had Quail Crossings on my computer forever, my Kindle forever, and I'm just now getting to it, and I wish I would have read it sooner." And I was just like, oh, okay. So she loved it, and she's going to buy the other ones, and that's what we all want. So that's who I am. I've been doing writing for 10 years. I've been independent publishing for 8. I've had some success, but I think like most of us, I'm kind of middle of the road. And so I want to work with you and hopefully help you. So the first question I have here, and this is a question I get a lot, especially when I do book signings, is from Amanda in Washington. And she says, "I want to write a book, but I don't even know where to start." Okay. Well, first you have to have an idea, of course, and most people already have that idea. So where do you go from there? And that my advice there is to write an outline. I write very, very detailed outlines. It kind of depends, like Quail Crossings, the outlines aren't as detailed, but for most of my books, I know what happens at the beginning, what happens in the middle, and what happens at the end. That way I always know where I'm at. That way I have a roadmap. Now there's a lot of authors out there who write by the seat of their pants, and that's fine. My mom's a pantser, so I completely understand that. But if you're sitting down for the first time, writing a full-length novel is very intimidating. There's a lot of empty space on that page, and so my suggestion, just a quick outline, just this is what I want to happen here, at the beginning, at the middle, at the end. That way you know where you're going. So that's my advice there. And if you don't have an idea, just look around, watch the news. There's tons of ideas there. Go to the park, watch people. I'm a huge people watcher. I always say that I never eat alone because anytime I'm at a restaurant, even if I may appear to be alone, trust me, I'm involved in every one of those conversations around me. I am a horrible eavesdropper, but I promise anything you say in my presence, it may end up in a book, but you won't know because I'll turn it around. So anyway, just look around, find those story ideas, magazines, newspapers, Pinterest, things you see on social media, stuff like that. Those are all really good places to get story ideas. Get your idea, write your outline, and then you got to get your butt in the chair. And anybody who's been writing for any amount of time knows that that is the absolutely hardest part, the sit down and start. You just got to sit down, you got to start, and you got to keep sitting down every day until that book is finished. And it's hard. Then you get that muddled middle. You don't want to finish. You think it's crap. We've all been there. Every single one of my books, I get to the middle, I'm like, this is awful. I'm just going to delete it and start over. Thankfully, I have some really good friends who, keep me away from the delete button. But you have to sit down, you have to start, and you have to finish. And so if you want to write a book, that's how you start. You get your butt in the chair with an outline, and you just start. And let me tell you, that rough draft will be rough, but you're going to edit it. So it's okay. It's okay to write a really bad rough draft as long as you edit it. Okay, so now I hope that answers your question, Amanda. So I have another question from Carrie in Oklahoma, and she wants to know, or he wants to know, what the difference between indie and traditional publishing is, and how do I know if I'm ready for independent publishing? So that's a really good question, and that's probably something we should have started with. But right now, there are 3 basic forms of publication that I would recommend. Traditional, and that is when you go out, you get an agent, they get you a publishing deal. Most often there's an advance, not always. But you go with somebody else to publish your book. You don't always need an agent. Sometimes smaller presses will take unagented manuscripts. So you just have to look and go from there. If you're going to go traditional, I suggest you start at the top, work your way down, find that dream publication that you want. Go there. That doesn't work out, then look for alternatives. But there's no reason not to start at the top. There's no reason for them to say no to you. But if you don't try, it's definitely a no, right? So traditional, it's just what it sounds like. It's the way that publication's been done for years. And then there's independent, and that's what I am. And basically that means I run my own publishing house. I do everything. I write the books, and then I'm responsible for all the edits, making sure that I have editors, and yes, you do need a copy editor, making sure that I have my editors, that I have my book covers. All that expense comes out of my own pocket. I pay for that. However, I do not go through a vanity press, and I don't know very many vanity presses at this time by name, but Tate Publishing is an example that most people have heard of. People would give them their manuscripts and they say, oh yes, we love it, we accept it. Just give us thousands of dollars and we'll publish it for you. Please don't do that. There are so many other ways, and that's what independent publishing has done. It has basically said, we can do this ourselves and we don't need you. And it also has kind of told the traditional publishers that we're not going to worry about your gatekeepers anymore. We can do this on our own. So that's what we're doing. All right, so how do you know which one is right for you? If you are totally intimidated by the computer, then you probably should go traditional. If you cannot stand the thought of formatting, finding a cover artist, finding a copy editor, then traditional may be the route for you. I am very lucky. A lot of that stuff I can do on my own. I have an aunt that is a great copy editor. I have found another great copy editor, and Elisa Forsman, who is very affordable for me. And I have my sister who does my covers. Again, I pay these people. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely pay them. But I'm very lucky that I have talent in-house. And so my sister does all my covers for the most part. And so I'm very lucky to have her. And you have to have a good cover if you're indie. A bad cover will kill a book faster than anything. You can have the best story, the great American novel, the next great American novel. And if you've got a really bad cover, nobody's going to read it. And I'm sorry, but it's the truth. People judge books on their covers. They always have. They always will. And so you got to have a great cover. So how do you know? So if you cannot do that stuff on your own, or if you cannot afford to do that stuff on your own, go traditional. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Just read your contract. Make sure your contract is something that you can live with. Make sure that the percentage that you're getting is something that you feel strongly about, that it's right. If it's too low, then it's okay to walk away and find somebody else. There are a lot of smaller presses that will do your book justice, and they will get it out there and it will look fantastic, and you don't have to spend a dime. If you're going with a traditional publisher and you don't like their percentage, say no. It's okay. And that kind of brings me to a sub note, because a lot of my friends in the publishing world are talking about Hallmark. I love Hallmark. I am not dogging on Hallmark at all. I will sit there and I will watch those movies. Just ask my mom, because she has Hallmark and I don't. And I'm always on the Hallmark channel when I go there. And I will, the whole time I'm watching them, I'm like, I can write better than this. But then by the end of the movie, I'm all like, oh, that was so good. So anyway, Hallmark has open submissions this month, which means you can submit your manuscript to Hallmark and you don't need an agent. And it's only during the month of September. And so many people I know are so excited. My friend Marilyn is a huge Hallmark fan as well. She just really wants to get one in with Hallmark. And I say go for it. Absolutely 100% go for it. If you get, let's say when you get that contract though, make sure that you read every bit of it. Make sure that you have a lawyer read every bit of it, because I've heard some things on some forums, and I haven't had any experience, but I just don't want anybody to get the sham. Okay, so if you get a contract, when you get a contract from Hallmark, please just make sure you have a lawyer look it over before you sign it, because I'm going to tell you right now, if I got a contract from Hallmark, I would be so giddy that I'd probably just sign it and it'd be like, oh, here's my firstborn child. So I understand wanting to like sign on that down the line, but please make sure that you have somebody who knows what they're talking about, who knows the legalese, read it. Because I've heard some things like they don't, like they'll take your movie rights and give you like $1,000 and that's it. And then they're going to play your movie for like, I don't know, 40 times over Christmas. I'm just saying, just have your own back. So there is also a thing called hybrid publishing, and that is something that I'm striving to do, and I haven't gotten there yet. I'm just independent right now. And that's when you have some books at a traditional publisher, say like Hallmark or Harlequin, or even a small press, and then you do some on your own. And that's a really big thing. And having hybrid means that somebody's helping pay the bills. And when you're independent, it all falls on you, and that can be very, very stressful. And so, there's nothing wrong with going traditional and going indie, and it's just a thing, being hybrid. I think it will help out a lot. So I hope that answers your question, Carrie, about the differences between independent and traditional. And basically, traditional, they do everything. Independent, you do everything. Hybrid, you got books both places. And then vanity, just walk away. Run away from them. Just run. Just run. You don't need to pay anybody thousands of dollars to publish your book. There are ways to do it a lot cheaper. So, okay. Oh, thank you, Nita. I appreciate that. All right, so I have another question here from Jackie in Texas. Um, this is a little personal, but that's okay. How do you get it all done? You have a baby, a grade schooler, and a husband. It makes my head hurt just thinking about it. Well, okay, that goes back to the outlining. I do outline, so when I get interrupted, which I do a lot, I make sure that I go back and when I get back to it, I have my outline, so I know exactly where I'm in. So that's one of the big things. The other thing is, and my daughter thinks I'm a total geek, but I love my planner. I love it. And I plan every nap time out. I write during the nap times. Family is very important to me. So when he's awake, I try very much to be engaged with him. I might be cleaning the house while he's running around in his little walker, running into my ankles, but at least we're together, right? So it's time management. And this brings me to a very important point that one of the reasons I wanted to answer this question today. The biggest thing that I've had to learn within the past year, having a new baby and a grade schooler, because if you don't know, one is 8, the other one is about to be a year, so a little bit of difference between there. Surprise! Sometimes you have to say no, and it's really, really hard. And at the end of May, at the end of the school year last year, I mean, I just got so overwhelmed. And because I didn't say no, I let people down. And that just kills me. I hate letting people down. And so from me to you, as one working mama, to all the other mamas out there, working or not, because it's a hard job, it's okay to say no. It's okay not to be a part of the PTO, even though you love your kids and you love their school. It's okay to tell your child that they can't do soccer because it takes up 3 nights a week and every single weekend. It's okay to say no. And so I am 42 years old today, and that is something that is still very, very hard for me because these organizations that I've been a part of, the PTO, the Oklahoma Writers Federation, these people mean a lot to me. And so having to say no to them, having to be like, I can't do that right now, I have too many other things, that was a significant thing for me to have to do. And I grieved having to say no to those people. I grieved disappointing them because as a mother or even a father, it is really important that we have validation outside the house. I mean, our kids love us. We cook dinner, everybody's healthy, and that's great. But there is just something about somebody saying, you know what, I value her opinion, and it has nothing to do with motherhood, that just is needed. So I implore you to find that validation, but not at the risk of your sanity. And so anyway, that was just my little don't be too hard on yourself, but learn how to say no kind of spiel. Because it was really hard. It was hard on me to say no. It was hard on me to walk away from those organizations and be like, I can't help right now. I'll be involved as much as I can, but I can't help right now. So anyway, and if you're struggling with that, you're not alone. You're not alone. All right, next question. This one is also pretty lighthearted. From Helen in Texas. What do you think of the Kardashians? I don't think about the Kardashians at all. They're not really part of my routine, okay? I don't have cable. I know who they are because they have done a phenomenal job of getting noticed during a time when it's really hard to get noticed. So I know who they are, and I respect that they have built this empire, but as far as it goes. I can't tell you what kind of drama's going on with them or who has what kids or no, don't think about them. So that was easy enough, huh? Okay, this one is from Jennifer. Yes, great name, by the way. From Texas. Can I write a book based on my favorite movie or series? Absolutely. That is called fan fiction, and you can absolutely do it. You can be inspired by anything that really drives you, anything that you love. I do recommend that you go ahead and change the names. Even if you're inspired by these characters, you can write a whole story with them in mind. Change the names, make the story your own. Don't plagiarize. I'm not telling you to plagiarize. And, just embrace it. And there's nothing wrong with it. How many authors have gotten famous off of their Twilight fan fiction? And I like the books. I'm not a Twihard by any means, but a ton of authors have taken the love of this series and made their own path with it. And I love that. I love that they were inspired by books and now they have their own careers because of their love of reading. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid if you're a huge Doctor Who fan. Take that inspiration and roll with it. Like I said, I would change the name. I don't have to do that later, but do it. If you're Star Trek, movies, Star Wars, there's nothing wrong with being inspired by great art that other people have done. Again, don't plagiarize because that's just rude. But I'm just saying, go for it. And I'm a big person who every time I do a book signing, I have at least 12 people tell me they want to write a book. And I say to each and every one of those people, do it. If you want to write, I believe everybody has a story. Will everybody write those stories? No. But I do believe everybody has a story in them. And if you're really passionate about it, go for it. If you're really passionate about Twilight, you want to write some Twilight fan fiction, do it. Do it. Go for it. Amy asks, how do you make time to read? Well, I'm a slow reader. Let me tell you. I read before bed. I get about one chapter in before I conk out. So I have this huge to read list beside the bed, and I really want to read all these books, especially the ones by my fellow authors, my colleagues. And I tell you, it's about a chapter a night. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done. So, but I love reading. It is my favorite thing, besides writing, is seeing those worlds that other people have built. And it just amazes me that there's so much creativity out there. And I will never look at another author and think, ugh, man, I'm so jealous and they're so good and I'm so awful. And I don't feel that way because I know that there's enough readers for everybody. And I see these people as my colleagues and not my competition. And I just love stories. I have always loved stories. In fact, most of the time when somebody asks me what I do, I say that I'm a storyteller, not a writer. I will never be the one that's like so poetic in language that you just kind of have to stop and think, oh my goodness, that line. Ooh, my friend Marilyn Boone does that. Makes me so jealous. Anyway, I just want to tell you a good story. When I sit down to write, I am never thinking about the vocabulary. I am thinking, how do I tell these people a good story? How do I entertain them? And hopefully my sentences are coherent when I do that. So I read before bed. I make it a point. I go to bed a little bit early just so I can read. I always have a paperback and a book on my Kindle going. So if my husband's already snoring, I just go on the Kindle. If I get to bed before he does, then I get, a big light. I also have this fun little neck light that I read with. Telling you I look so cool. Yes, I'm a nerd. It's okay. I embrace it. So anyway, that's how I make time to read every night. So I mentioned that I was at a book signing this weekend. I went to the Washington County Fair here in Dewey, Oklahoma, and was able to share a booth with some really talented folks, the Word Weavers, which is a writing group that I'm a part of here in Bartlesville. And while I was there, I had a neighbor. Her name is Liz Polly, and she sells paparazzi jewelry. See, isn't it pretty? I bought this set. Okay. Anyway, I couldn't wear earrings before, and now these paparazzi earrings, they don't hurt my ears. I'm so excited. My daughter was like, did you get your ears pierced? I was like, no, I just found earrings at work. And so anyway, I was sitting next to her, and there's always slow time during these kinds of events. And so we are just chatting, I swear, instant friend. Liz and I, just two peas in a pod. And we were just talking and chatting about being a businesswoman and getting noticed. And she was like, have you ever told people your why? And I was like, no, I'm not sure I have. I mean, not in a grand sense like Facebook Live, I guess. So here is my why. This is why I write. It is honestly, it is something that I have to do. I have a gazillion stories in my head, and I have to tell them. It is not I want to, I have to. And I'm going to give you specific on my why on Quail Crossings today, and I'll go into other ones another day. My inspiration is history. And I am so afraid that history is dying every day with our elderly who haven't been asked, hey, grandpa, grandma, what was your childhood like? That is why I wrote Quail Crossings. Sure, I was inspired by, I was out at my parents have some property over by Beaver, Oklahoma, and it was so windy, and I was watching their dogs, and we were all walking, and the sand was just pelting me. Oh, it hurt. And I thought, man, this is bad now. How was it during the Great Depression? And that's where the nugget started. But the story happened after I spoke with 3 women, all from Derzet, who all grew up during the Great Depression. Okay. So I saw an angry face there. Anyway, who all grew up during the Great Depression. One was a child, one was a teenager, and one was an adult. And their stories are how I formed Quail Crossings. That and my grandpa. So basically, anything honoring that happened in Quail Crossings, totally my grandpa. He did that. He was something else, and he just passed away back in July. And so I miss him dearly, and I'm going to miss those stories dearly. And those stories definitely brought us close together the last 10 years or so. So that is my why. I write historical fiction, but in every historical fiction story that I write, there is a bead of truth in there. There is something that somebody has told me about their history. So that is why I wrote Quail Crossings. My why on why I write is because I'm a storyteller. It's what I'm meant to do. Anybody who has talked to me knows if we have any time together, I'm going to tell you a story about something that has happened, whether it be with my daughter or my son or my husband or in one of the many lives of Jennifer McMurrian that I always tell people. So anyway, yeah, I know. I don't know what the frowny face was, Tony. I don't know. So anyway, that's my why. I'm a storyteller, and I come by it honestly. My mother is a storyteller. And so I love that I get to do this with her because she is now an independent author as well. And so it has brought us closer together. Sorry, I was thinking about my grandpa and stories and my mom and stories, and it gets me a little verklempt because I'm just so gosh darn happy that I get to do this, and I hope that I can share information with you guys. And so, because today is my birthday, I want to give you guys a deal. Like I said, I had a book signing, and not everybody can make those, and I understand that. So I wanted to give you guys the deal that I give at my book signings. And all you have to do is say sold in the comments, and I will get a hold of you for your emails and stuff. But you can get the whole series, all 4 books, of Quail Crossings for $40. That's $10 a book. So you can get the whole series. I'll sign it. I'll make it out to whomever. Perfect birthday gifts, perfect Christmas gifts, perfect, hey, I just want some books gifts. So $40 for the whole series. Like I said, that's $10 a book. Usually they're $12 each. So yeah, so that I wanted to do that. I wanted to give you guys that. And I'll be posting deals, and I hope that this thing will grow. And as of right now, I'm just kind of planning on Monday nights, and we will see. And the reason that is at 10:30 is because I have to wait till everybody's asleep. That's part of being a mom. And there may be some Mondays that I come and I got spit up on my clothes and my hair's a wreck and I have my glasses on and they're smeared with cookie crumbs, because that's life. And I'm a working mom and you're a working person. And so we all know, sorry, itch. We all know that it's real life. And I want to bring you real life, real struggles as an independent author, and hopefully add some insight and make it not so much of a struggle. Okay, I also want to make sure that I tell everybody, thank you for all the birthday wishes. I feel so incredibly loved. I woke up to almost 100 birthday, excuse me, 100 birthday, happy birthdays. I just feel so incredibly blessed that I get to live this life and then I get to be a part of yours. And so anyway, I'm going to do this again Monday night, next Monday night. I believe that is the 16th, 13th. I don't know. Let me look here. It's the 16th. I knew it. It's the 16th at 10:30. We can work with the time, kind of, but like I said, I got to make sure everybody's in bed, or they'll just come walking through that curtain because nobody respects the curtain. Let me tell you. All you parents know, closed door mean nothing. Okay. So anyway, I will see you next week. Same place, same time, right here on Facebook. I'm trying not to go over 30 minutes because I know you guys have a life too. And so I love you guys. Thank you for coming, and I will see you next time. Bye.